Welcome to The Lavish Leader, Unveiling Wisdom, a podcast by The Lavish Group. We are a community of powerful leaders and creators. Each one of us is on a different path and from a different background, but we all embody aspects of what it means to truly live a lavish life. And we are here to share our stories. I'm your host, Dr. Erin Martin. Today, we have an amazing guest for you. I'm so excited to share with you Debra Poneman. For over 4 decades, Debra has been a best-selling author and founder of the Yes to Success seminars and has shared her system that is used by hundreds of thousands around the world to live not only success and abundance, but deep happiness and profound self-love. Debra's clients have used her formulas to become mega successful entrepreneurs, renowned transformational leaders, New York Times best-selling authors, millionaires, billionaires, even household names. Her corporate clients include Mattel Toys, the Xerox Management Group, McDonnell Douglas, Shackley, and International Trade Management, among others. She has a print and throughout the country on TV networks and multiple media outlets, including ABC, NBC, Fox, and CNN, and on shows from coast to coast, including Good Morning New England, Chicago Today, and Mid Morning LA. Debra is the proud mother of 2 fabulous adult children and feels her greatest accomplishment is not that she helped so many live their dreams, but that she's helped them discover the greatness they truly are. So without further ado, let's start this lavish conversation with Debra Poneman. Welcome, Debra.
Thank you. I'm so genuinely thrilled to be here.
I am so thrilled to have you here. And lavish conversations, I have no doubt that this is going to be an amazing 45 minutes to an hour, however long that we riff on things. But I just followed you and have seen what you have done. I also am a follower of the other women that are in your tribe. And I know that you are all just such powerful women. So first off the bat, I would just love it if you could share with us your story. And particularly, you have gone from being a full-time meditation teacher in your past to starting a company called Yes to Success. And that has taught people, like hundreds of thousands, I believe, now across the globe to be successful in the material world. But it's a whole new thing. And I love how you call it the new success. And that, like, I get chills when I think about it, or even when I just said it, I got goosebumps. So I would love it if you could tell us what put you on your path of seeking these deeper truths, sharing them, and ultimately to where you are now as a transformational leader.
I'll tell you the whole story. I'll truncate it a little bit. Well, it actually started out when I was a college student in the early 1970s. That was the era of love and peace and psychedelics. And it was also the era when meditation was just starting to become a happening thing. You know, the Beatles were in with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi at the time. And it was a time when we were just inherently asking, what is the meaning of life? Just questioning. And one day I was walking through campus at the University of Illinois and I saw a poster with Maharishi's face on it. And I thought, I want that. So I started practicing TM and my entire life changed. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is the founder of Transcendental Meditation. The first thing that happened was I stopped feeling that level of emotional angst that was the hallmark of 18 and 19-year-olds. You know, you just live with emotional angst. It just left. And I stopped falling asleep in class. And then I started listening to discourses by Maharishi on the nature of reality. And a few weeks before my 20th birthday, I dropped out of school and I went to be with Maharishi for 5 months to become a TM teacher. During those 5 months, we meditated between 8 and 12 hours every day. We only came out of our rooms at night for Maharishi's evening discourses. And what's so interesting, you said, a lot of people in my tribe, we were together back then. Janet Atwood, John Gray, Barbara DeAngelis, Marcy Shimoff. We all became TM teachers together.
Oh, wow.
We knew each other. And then when I came home, I taught meditation full time. So the question might be, why did I decide to start a company called Yes to Success?
Yes.
And the truth is, and I was also the director of admissions at Maharishi International University in Fairfield, Iowa. And I loved working for the TM movement. And I loved the changes that I saw in people's lives, but it was a nonprofit. And when I saw the big 3-0 on the horizon, I reached a point where I realized that woman does not live by mantra alone. And I needed to make some money.
Really?
So I could have things like health insurance and car insurance, right? Maybe even a car to insure. So I thought, and I was living in this meditation community, and I thought, okay, where do people go to make a lot of money fast? Obviously, the answer was LA. So I picked myself up and I moved to LA and I started selling investments. And what I wanted to do was make a lot of money so I could just go back and continue doing what I love. But you know that expression, we make plans and God laughs. Well, I got a big laugh over this one because I started working for a financial company selling tax shelters. And I was so bad at it. I never sold one investment. Actually, that's not true. One, my dad, because my dad felt so sorry for me. But one day, a colleague invited me to the Learning Annex because also we know that why we think we're doing something more often than not does not turn out to be the real reason. So this colleague invited me to the Learning Annex for a money seminar. And this was 1980, and the man was talking about the law of attraction. And he said that we're like tuning forks. And he said that if you're vibrating with, I'll never get out of debt, I'll never be wealthy, it's just like a tuning fork vibrating in an F repels a B. Or if it's vibrating at a B sharp or B flat, it's going to repel an F sharp. If you're vibrating with thoughts of doom and gloom, I'll never find a man, I'll never get wealthy, I'll never be successful, and all of these things, you are repelling the success and the love and the abundance that wants to vibrate into your life. I had never heard this before. So I started studying the great masters of success and prosperity, like Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Catherine Ponder. And I learned that just as there is a path and techniques to create that inner silence, which I've been teaching for 10 years, there was a clear path and techniques to create outer success. And I'm talking about true success, not just those days it was the Mercedes, now it's the Tesla in the driveway, but true success where you love your life and you love yourself and you contribute to the planet and you put on earth to do. And I found out there was a blueprint for that. So I started my company. And within a few short years, following the principles that I taught, I was a student of my own teachings. My Yes to Success company became an international phenomenon. And I taught people how to create outer success on the foundation of inner silence.
Wow, that is profound.
Yeah. And can I just share just a couple of the things that I did to allow my company to go from meditation teacher to international phenomenon in a very short period of time?
Absolutely. I would love to hear that.
I am just going to tell you some of my key principles. And one is that an idea comes to you because you're the one that's supposed to manifest it on the planet. I mean, I read a lot about you and I know a lot about you too. And I love how you had that idea to start the lavish lifestyle. It was almost like the creator whispered into your ear, do this now. You're a doctor, natural health practitioner, Ayurvedic practitioner. And it's just like, boom, this is how I'm going to bring it all together. So when an idea comes to you, that's a gift from the creator, the God of your understanding, spirit, source, whatever you want to call that energy in the universe. And it's also the idea is given to you at a time that the world needs what you have to give. And if you don't grasp that opportunity and do it, it's going to have to go to somebody else because it's necessary for the world to progress. And that's why, somebody has idea to be loudest, somebody to write a book. I was just listening to Dan Buettner about blue zones. Like what do people do who live to be 100? I know both of us like to teach that too. Yes. And one person has idea to be a National Geographic photographer. We each, and also inherent in that idea, we are also given the ability. God isn't a trickster. It doesn't say, here's what I want you to do, but I'm not going to give you the ability you need to do it. No, inherent in that idea is everything you need. You've been given the gift to do it, or else it wouldn't have come to you. And then the other thing that I always tell people is when you have your idea, don't go around telling everybody what you're going to do. because you're going to bump up against the discouragement committee. And they're going to tell you all the reasons why your idea won't work. And then your little seed of an idea is crushed before it even can be planted and safe and watered and grow into a glorious plant. What is sacred needs to be kept secret, and your precious ideas are sacred. And also, another analogy I like to use is, when a steam is kept in a kettle, it has to burst forth, right? But if you leave a little steam out every few moments, then it never bursts forth in all of its whistling glory. And that's what we do with our ideas. We tell people what we're going to do. And then maybe we get accolades and they say, oh, that's a great idea. But then the pressure isn't there. The steam isn't there. We already got somebody telling us how brilliant we are. So I say, leave that steam in the kettle until you've made significant progress towards your goal. And then you can share it with the world. If the discouragement committee tells you it's not going to work, it's no longer going to crush your idea because you've already manifested to a great degree. So sacred secret, and the idea is given to you. And if you're dragging your feet, take a step from which there's no turning back. When I had my idea to teach my Yes to Success seminar, I was 29. The only thing that I had ever done was taught meditation, and I'm going to go out and teach people how to be successful. So when I'm dragging my feet, I thought, okay, I got to take that step. So I rented the Santa Monica Public Library and put up the posters because then I had to do it.
Yeah.
And then the discouragement committee told me nobody was going to believe a crazy idea like your thoughts create your reality, which is what it said on my poster. But the posters were already up. So I couldn't turn back. And then I walked into that room in the Santa Monica Public Library. It was standing room only. And the rest is history.
Wow. What you just said is pregnant with so much wisdom. I was like, oh man, where do we start with? You just said so much there. And I want to emphasize it. So I want to go back to a little bit like when you have an idea, don't tell anybody about it. And I even want to go back to the word idea. How does an idea show up? This can be, in a lot of times, it's a desire. And so an idea can be a desire. And desire, I think particularly for women, is a hard thing to do because there's a lot of different cultural connotations that come with these, like, boy, that would be selfish. I would have to sacrifice this. What would people think? Like all of these things. And I always tell people, whether you think of it as an idea or you think of it as a desire, you're given that for a reason. And there's this divine desire. And I love how in your ebook, which is wonderful and is available for free on Debra's website, by the way, you talk about Dharma. I think that what you just said was so profound because for people who are quote unquote seeking, and they've heard this word Dharma, and it's kind of almost like very formal spiritual thing. It needs to be this big purpose for all of humanity. And you've made it so approachable when you talk about it is the ideas, it's the passion, it's the desire that you have, like you're talking about a flautist or a photographer, or what it is that the creator is going to express through you. I would love it if you would maybe bring that to a usable form for people right here.
I love talking about Dharma. Because living your Dharma, I mean, the word Dharma is literally translated as the way. People often use the word Dharma synonymously with occupation, but Dharma is really not just about your vocation, but the purpose or purposes for which you were put on earth, which is to use your God-given talents. My Dharma is to teach. Your Dharma is to be a doctor, like I say, Ayurvedic practitioner, all the things you do, metaphysician, a mom, where both of us have the Dharma of being moms. It's the DNA. Not everybody was put on earth to be a parent. I have friends who totally don't want to be parents, but it's the DNA we're encoded with to expand our fulfillment in life and make a contribution. And it's doing what makes your heart sing. When we're not living our dharmas, then there's not only an emptiness in our own lives, but it creates chaos on the subtle levels of creation. Because if you're a musician and you're not making music, or if you have magic hands and you're not a body worker or a healer, there's a pain that it causes on the planet. In the Rig Veda, it says, when the dancers are dancing and the writers are writing. It actually says when Papa is a physician and Mama throws the corn upon the grinding stone. It's a little sexist, but it's when you do your Dharma, then it says an age, when everybody's doing their Dharma, an age of enlightenment is going to dawn on the planet. And it's returning the world to balance. It's adding to the collective balance. And everyone has a purpose that they were put on earth to do. And when you're living your Dharma, there's a knowingness, there's a happiness, you spread light. So don't let others say to you, are you crazy? You're never going to be able to be a successful rock and roll band. You're never going to, too many books on leadership, too many books on happiness. Well, thank you for sharing, but I know that this is what I put on earth to do. And as my friend Sadhvi, another person I think you should interview, Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati, she wrote the book From Hollywood to the Himalayas.
Oh, wonderful.
And she tells this story about a man who pounded rocks all day long. And you might think, how can splitting rocks be somebody's Dharma? A man in India, and it's a true story. But by splitting rocks all day long, he was the first person in his village to send his daughter to school. When his daughter graduated, she came back and she caused a cultural revolution among the young women in that village. And then all of the young women, because of that man splitting rocks and sending his daughter to school, now all the girls in that village, and then it spread out to all the villages around that area in India. And again, you were each put here for a purpose, and nobody could do what you were put here to do. They could do something similar, but there are people whose contract in this life, people who are waiting for you, no matter how many other people, they're waiting for you to change their life. So we were talking about how there's nothing capricious in nature. Nature doesn't trick you. I love that quote by Emerson where he says, there's nothing capricious in nature. And the implanting of a desire, you talk about desire, indicates that its gratification is in the constitution of the person who feels it. And the only problem is, as the Buddha says, we think we have time. We have no idea what tomorrow will bring, or even if we're going to wake up. So that's
what you're saying is so important. And I'm thinking particularly, I'm thinking about myself as a woman coming up through my career and having success and coming to the place where, what am I doing and who was I doing it for? And how many other women have, like you said, shared a desire, or because of how they were raised or fear of how it would be perceived, kept it to themselves and never did anything with it. And now 20, 30, 40 years later, they still have that inside of them, and they've created a whole nother life for themselves, and that something is pulling them back. I am certain, 100% certain, that in your 40 years or however long it's been that you have been doing this yes to success, that you have probably come across many people in that situation.
Yeah. And you know why? Well, another great quote from the Course in Miracles is, don't be concerned with your own readiness. People think they're not ready. I'll do it when the kids grow up. I'll do it when I get the divorce. I'll do it when I get the inheritance. Course in Miracles, it says, don't be concerned with your own readiness. Just consistently be aware of mine.
Oh, I get goosebumps every time. That is such profound truth. Like, we are not alone. And this idea, this kind of cultural conditioning that we've got to do it all ourselves. And there is a shift, a transformation that can happen hugely when we do realize you're given something. And you're also, when you're given that desire, you're given that idea, to realize that everything that you need is given to you to accomplish this.
And it's not always easy. And you have doubts and fears. My friend Lisa Nichols, who's somebody else you should interview, Lisa Nichols, she puts it so eloquently. She says, it's not the wrong dream if you're afraid. It's the right dream because you're afraid. That's where most people get stopped. But your dreams have to be bigger than you. You have to leave this world a better place because you live there. And she also says, and if you think, I can't do this, you're right, but you're not doing it. Like you just said, there's a higher power that's working through you. And if a dream burns in your heart, that's because you're supposed to move on it. So move quickly enough to keep the momentum going, but slowly enough to continually hear the guidance of the higher power. your inner voice.
That is so key. That is the balance. And that's the perfect amount of momentum that you're talking about. And something just dropped in for me as you were talking about there's a lot of attention being given to the loneliness that successful women feel at the top. And I'm wondering if you've experienced this yourself and how you've approached it. And then also, maybe you could talk to us about if you have experienced it, or either personally or working with people, what do you feel can help us shift this paradigm?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I totally don't feel lonely because I live the principles that I teach. And I have many friends, people you know, names your listeners would know. And you know why we're not lonely? Because we lift each other up. We know the law of abundance. We don't compete. We collaborate. We support each other. And I'll give you a great example. Just a couple days ago, our friend Shelley Lefko, her book, Hitting the Wall, based on her work of limiting beliefs, came out. And we have an organization called the Transformational Leadership Council. It was started by Jack Canfield. And these are people with huge platforms. And we have a little WhatsApp group. And Shelley said, my book's coming out tomorrow. Everybody, not only all day were we cheering her on. You go, girl. You're number one in 10 categories. You've broken 1,000. But we all mailed to our lists and we texted our communities and we called our friends because we all have plenty of success to go around. If she is a best-selling book, it doesn't take anything away from our ability to have the best-selling book. In fact, it's the law of karma. You're going to get to someone else, that goodness is going to come back to you. Actually, I'm going to tell you a story, which I don't think you know. You know Marcy Scheimoff. She's been on your show. And well, first of all, let me tell you how I met Marcy. Okay. I was teaching Yes to Success back in the early 80s. And this adorable little college student comes up, but she's like, I want to work for you. And I'm like, I vaguely remembered her because we knew her vaguely through the transcendental meditation movement, but not well. And she came and I said, well, you're in college. She says, I'm going to quit and I'm going to work for you. One of the keys to becoming successful in life and also to being there for your peeps is knowing that the person standing in front of you is always the most important person in the world in that moment. I mean, so many people were there, we're sharing our hearts with somebody and they're looking around the room to see if there's somebody more important. You ever been in one of those? Right?
Yeah.
Seeing if there's someone more important to talk to. So Marcy's in front of me. I know what Gandhi says, if you can't see God in the next person you meet, you need look no further. And I'm looking at this cute little girl bouncing up and down saying she wants to work for me. And I listened to every word she said. I didn't look around the room. And the ideas she was sharing, they were brilliant. And I said, well, I don't know if your parents are going to like you quitting college to come work for me, but sure, I'd love for you to work for me. She did quit college. She did become my secretary assistant. And she subsequently went on to be one of the top women nonfiction authors in history, selling 16 million chicken soup books and writing Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason. But she never forgot that I put her on my stage for the first time. She never forgot that I believed in her and I went to her and I asked her ideas. And then when the chicken soup people asked her to write chicken soup for the American Idol Soul, she was under contract for Happy for No Reason. She said to them, but I know somebody who would be perfect for this book because she's a great writer and she watches American Idol with her tweens, right? Which I did. And I was handed a best-selling book to write because it combined Chicken Soup, the number one nonfiction book series in history, and American Idol, the number one reality TV series in history. And I combined them in that book. And of course, it became an instant bestseller. But it was because we look out for each other.
Yes.
And then there's one more point to the story. And then years later, because I took off 20 years to be a full-time mom at home. We could talk about that later. But when I came back, when she heard I was coming back, she grabbed me and said, I have this idea about something we should teach about miracles. And we put together this program called Your Year of Miracles. And we did it together for 5 years. And then I decided that I wanted to go back and teaching Yes to Success. And everybody wanted the dirt. Oh, why did you leave? Why did you and Marcy split up? Why? It
Right.
doesn't have to be that way. I cheer and now it's 5 years later, and she's been teaching it with Dr. Sue Morter and Lisa Garr. And I am your Miracles biggest cheerleader. But I'm pursuing my Dharma, which is teaching yes to success. And of course, my ageless course. And and there's no dirt.
Right.
She's my beloved. She will always be my beloved. But that's what we have to do. We have to support each other and lift each other up and know that when we do that, it won't be lonely at the top. You'll have your sisters all around you.
That is so true. I love that story. I got chills like 3 times. I think that the big points that you said is there's enough to go around. And number 2 is just because somebody else reaches their dreams, has success, does not mean that there's any less for anybody else. And we have to remember we live in an infinite universe. Abundance is infinite. And if that were not so, none of us would have, in present time, would be left with anything. There's been so many successful people way before us, and there's nothing new under the sun. This is true. And yet, we are all these beautiful, amazing, unique, individualized fractal of the divine that is expressing in ways that have never been expressed before. And somebody else is waiting for you to express it in exactly that way because their ears are tuned only to hear it in that tune, in your tune. And we have to remember that women have to stop tearing each other down and start lifting each other up in order to change this paradigm and this perception that it's lonely, that success sacrifices connection. It is just not true.
I'll tell you one other quick story. When 20 years, full-time mom at home, and the person who kicked my butt to get back on the speaking circuit was Janet Atwood, who is the founder of the Passion Test. And I remember one day she said to me, Debbie, when are you going to stop pretending your kids still need you and get out on the speaking circuit because the world needs you? And I thought about that for a second, of course. And I thought, well, yeah, they are 21 and 18. They really don't need me to read them Harry Potter anymore. And I really thought about it that I knew my kids didn't need me, but I kind of needed them because one, I love you, mommy was worth more to me than, 1,000 standing ovations. And it still is. But she was right. And I said, okay, you're right. And she said, good. And she went out and got me my first couple of speaking engagements because nobody knew me. I had been gone for 20 years. And she gets me a speaking engagement for this company in Canada. And I said, Janet, you and I speak on basically the same thing, having success or living your passion. And I said, and you get me the speaking engagement. And what if they like me so much that they don't invite you back? And she said, then I'll find another better speaking engagement.
Wow. Friends like that are golden. Don't you just love friends like that? Like they tell you when your butt looks big in a pair of jeans and they kick your butt when they're like, girl, you're procrastinating. Get yourself out there. It's enough. That's so wonderful. Well, you bring me right to my next question because you essentially walked away from all of the success that you had created. You were on the verge of having your own daytime TV talk show. Your Yes to Success book was in the hands of several New York publishers, and you walked away. Can you tell us how you came to this decision, what that was like for you, and if there is anything that you wish you had done differently?
That's a good one. Well, I did walk away, but I didn't really come to a decision. It decided me. Because yes, I was at the top of my game. I was about to have a TV show. My promoter in Southeast Asia was waiting for me. Well, what happened is basically I got pregnant and I didn't have the easiest pregnancy. I was kind of in bed for a lot of that time, but still I had a promoter in Southeast Asia. Before I got pregnant, I was supposed to do a tour of Southeast Asia, Yes to Success tour. So he was waiting for me to just push that baby out. And also the publisher and the TV, they were all waiting for me. So my plan was to give birth and get back to following my passion, which is spreading the message of success throughout the world. But the core of my teaching, to live true success, you need to be true to yourself and to follow the impulses of truth that speak to you in your heart. I mean, with all the assuredness, evangelical preacher, I had told the world that the basis of true success was listen to the inner voice, which we so often ignore. And I taught that even if the impulses of your heart appear to be leading you in the opposite direction of your goals. If you want true happiness and real success, trust and follow those impulses. And I promise it will lead to success. So on this fateful day in 1988, the impulses of my heart were saying it was time for my career to come to a screeching halt, because when the midwives handed me my baby girl, I took one look at that little scrunched up face and I realized I did not want to leave her to go to the bathroom, let alone leave her to go traveling around the world. So fortunately, I had a very successful husband. I know not everybody has that luxury, but I did. So I made the decision to become a full-time mom at home. And there I remained for the next 20 years. And I also want to say, I'm not saying, oh, everybody should be a full-time mom at home. No, you have to follow what's true for you. And when I went back to work, my kids loved it when I went back to work. Well, not only did they get rid of me, but they loved it. Hey, that's my mom on the TV. That's my mom in the newspaper. That they loved it. But I'll tell you, when I made the initial decision, there were people that were not happy with me, like my promoter in Southeast Asia. True story. I called him and I said, Chiang. Well, he called me. He said, when are we going to set up the tour? And I said, Chiang, you're going to have to call me back in 18 years. And it turned into 21 years when my son was born. So when I said to my own surprise, I have a new passion, my colleagues thought I had gone out of my mind, and they were right. It's precisely what happened. I had gone out of my mind and right into my heart. And that is where your true success will always lie. Now, here's a question. Did I ever think I should have done anything differently? Well, the answer is yeah. But no, it's not that I thought I should do anything differently. But did I ever doubt that I had made my right decision? Like when my kids were teenagers and I thought, what did I do? But I do have a story that I want to share with you because I think that your listeners will really love this. But there was one time, which I know you could relate. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
Hey, okay. So anyway, I have 2 of the little darlings, although I also have some bonus children, but 2 biological children. And I remember one time they were 2 and 5. And I know Daniel was 2 because he was still in diapers. And it was one of those days that nothing would make them happy, just like they were in a mood. So I decided I was going to put them in front of the TV because I had had it up to here. I know you probably never got to that place.
Oh, right. Yes.
Never.
We live under a rainbow here.
Right. Exactly. So I said, okay, that's it. We're watching TV today. And they're like, we want Bounty. My daughter had a speech impediment, couldn't say her words. I want Bounty. Where's Bounty? She wanted, that big purple dinosaur.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll find you Bounty. And this is absolutely 1,000% true story. I put them on the couch. I'm doing the channel check, looking for Barney. I actually had a dial on the TV, it was 30 some years ago. And as I'm looking for Barney, I see Oprah. And not only do I see Oprah, but one of my students is there on Oprah, teaching Oprah an experiment that I actually cognized in meditation that illustrated the power of our mind to actually even move matter. Because I always talk about how the mind has the ability to create anything. So he's showing Oprah this. And Oprah's freaking out. She goes, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm going to show it to my staff. I can't believe I could do it. And he's like, now, I do have to say, I don't have anything bad to say about the gentleman who was showing her that. When I quit, I told my students, you take this stuff, you bring it to the world needs it. I'm going to Chuck E. Cheese. So it was okay that I'm standing in front of this TV. He has Oprah freaking out over this. And I have these 2 whiny kids on the couch. And at that moment, I thought, I blew it. And I burst into tears and I'm sobbing in front of the TV. And my little girl, Deanna, she says, Mommy. I said, yes, sweetie. She goes, I think you forgot our popsicles. So I found Barney and I went into the kitchen. I'm pouring the orange juice into the mold to make them their orange juice popsicles. And I'm mad. I'm mad at God. Like God betrayed me. That was supposed to be me, right? So I'm saying to God, why did you do this? And I'm just like ranting and raving as I'm pouring the orange juice into the mold. And I see this image of a book that I had read. Actually, a little whisper in my ear was remember the book. And my first impulse was, yeah, like all my friends at New York Times, all my students now with New York Times bestsellers, and they're at book lunch parties with their little brie with honey and walnuts on top. And I'm at Chuck E. Cheese eating cardboard pizza. Like, what is wrong with this picture? And I'm saying, like, that was supposed to be my book on Oprah. And then this little boy said, remember the book. And I saw this book that I had read years before about a man who died and then was revived and came back. And while he was dead, he told this story about how he went through this tunnel of darkness. And there at the end of the tunnel was this being of light. And the being of light asked him if he wanted to see the high points of his life. And he was like, yeah, I do. And it was this really short, it was like a movie reel, but he said it was really short. It showed him how to swing a baseball bat, dancing with his daughter at her wedding. And he's like, but what about when I brought my company, started to be trading on the Dow, whatever, I don't know. What about when I built the factories in Japan? And Being of Light said, all of those moments glorified you. And then the Being of Light said, would you like to see the life of somebody else who just passed over? And kind of he said, yeah. And in this book, it said these curtains of like golden light parted, and they're sitting on a throne of golden light, surrounded by a host of angels, was the woman who used to take 3 buses to clean his house. And then this Being of Light showed him the reel of the highlights of this woman's life. And it was an endless reel. And it showed her carrying a pot of soup to a sick friend. And it showed her comforting her child who'd been bullied. It showed her stroking her mother's hair as her mother was making her transition. It showed her cheering at the baseball games for the kids of the parents who had to work 3 jobs so they couldn't be there. And it showed her going to church and just hugging everybody up and saying, how you doing today? And then the Being of Light said to the man, when you get here, you discover that the only thing that really matters on earth is how much love you give. And with that, I put those popsicles in the freezer. I went back into the living room. I sat between my 2 kids and I just forgot about the books by Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Florence Scovel-Shinn. And I just surrendered to learning from my 2 greatest gurus, which of course are the gurus who call me mom.
Yeah, that is a beautiful story, Debra. And I can tell that it's still, you can feel gravity, but in an uplifting way of your decision and doing that. And I have a similar story. I have 3 children. One of them is 17. He's in his last year of high school. He's about to leave, and have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, 2 little girls. And for me, moving away from medicine was a real identity crisis. And I think for a lot of women in similar situations who are professionals who have invested so much time in their education and building their career and all of this, and then you become a mother. And for me, I became a mother at a little bit of a later age. And so I had this whole life. And I remember when my daughter was born, I had very, very severe postpartum depression after she was born. And I think, and I'm very, very certain, in fact, that a huge part of that was because I really wanted to be with her. And yet I had my own private practice. The film Escape Fire had just come out, and I was still traveling all over the country. And I was also working in the emergency room. I was doing all of this stuff, which is what I had worked my whole life for. And I wasn't, like you said, listening to myself. And I truly believe that postpartum depression was kind of my spirit's way of creating an out for me, because it literally got so bad that it forced me to have to stop. And boy, these girls, I tell you now, that identity, once I got past this identifying as what I do and understanding my oneness with these beings, these wonderful, amazing beings, and this kind of soul contract that we have with each other in this life, like you said, I sit myself down on that couch in between them and I'm watching Is It Cake or whatever is on Netflix that they love to watch. Or a couple of weeks ago, I'm out in the backyard in my swimming suit running through the sprinkler with them. And those are the moments that I will never forget. And they will never forget that mom ran through the sprinkler with them too. And just as you're saying, the way you did it, you came back after 20 years. And for me, my kids aren't grown yet. And there is a way that I can be of service to the world and be an amazing mom that is an amazing role model for my children. And I think for me, particularly having girls, I'm very aware of the huge responsibility of raising girls in this world, in this day and age. So, wow, what you did was brave. It was courageous. It was necessary. And it doesn't seem to me that looking back on it, you regret any of it.
Well, and I also have to say that I wasn't one of those moms that stayed home and churned my own butter. I worked, I did a lot of nonprofit work. I was always the room mom and the drive the kids to the other state for the basketball tournament mom. So I kept myself very busy. But I always think that all these kids want, and a lot of people, again, they don't have the luxury to stay home. As I said, I had a husband who did very well, so I have that luxury. But I think the most important thing, now that we're just off on this parenting thing for a bit, is giving the kids attention where you're not distracted. Like running through the sprinkler with them, which these two little girls, 5 and 8, I can't even imagine how precious they are. And like you say, those are the moments. You don't have to be with them 24/7. My kids were like, okay, bye, Mom. We could read Harry Potter ourselves. Bye-bye. But, looking at your phone or answering your while just full attention and those moments of fun. I just took my 32-year-old son and one of my bonus sons and his son, because we had kids that came and lived with us later, and his 6-year-old son. We went to Disneyland a couple weeks ago. And for 2 days, I did not answer a text, an email. I just gave my full attention to my boys. And it was 2 of the best days I ever had in my life. And we loved Disneyland, but I think they loved having Mama Deborah's attention just completely on them.
Absolutely. And when I was running through the sprinkler, it was like 10 minutes, but that was the 10 minutes of their day. And then after that, they were fine that I had to come back into my office and do some other things. And it is intention. I know we're talking about parenting, but if we talk about success and significance, which is a topic that both you and I love to talk about. This is one of the things, like significance beyond success is one of the things I like to talk about. This is how we define true success. Like it's those moments. So it's our children. It's that story that you just talked about, that man looking back or being shown somebody else's life and those highlight reels of life. Like success with your seminars, you've talked with people about how to be successful in this world. And yet it's really, you said, well, it's that inner silence. It's that where the real meaning of success is really a very significant thing.
I love that significance beyond success. I hope you copyright that. That is so brilliant. And for me, true success means exactly what we're talking about, staying true to a deeper sense of purpose, a sense of who you truly are. You are changing lives in so many ways, and yet you take that time to be with your kids. And that's staying true to your purpose. And we don't just have one purpose. And you have a choice at every moment to do what you believe is right in your heart or to look good or betray yourself. It means having the courage to pursue your own journey, even in the face of fear, making the choice at every moment and choosing to trust, choosing to be kind if you choose to do acts of goodness, if you choose to lift other people up. The universe is going to take care of you. The renowned Swami Vivekananda, he said, the great secret of true success, of true happiness is this: the man or woman who asks for nothing in return, the perfectly unselfish person, is the most successful. So that's it. It's like doing those things, not for what I could get, but just from a space of giving. When Arianna Huffington did research for her book Thrive and asked the world's most successful people, what were the factors for a life well lived? Overwhelmingly, they said, besides wisdom, wonder, and well-being, the 3 W's, they said, making a contribution. So you can make a contribution and get paid for it. Yay. Or, you could also just do random acts of kindness. But I think that's right on, that making a contribution is true success. And of course, success is a journey. It's not a destination. It's, again, we don't know if we're going to wake up tomorrow. So enjoy every step towards your goals. You know, you can have goals, but reaching the goal is often a disappointment. Actually, my friend who had, I'll tell you one other very quick story. It's about Marcy. Marcy's goal was always to be an author rock star and to speak on the stage in front of thousands. That was her goal. And she was very upfront about saying that was her goal. And when she wrote Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, she became an author rock star. It catapulted her to superstar status. It was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for weeks. And she talks about the story of when she was at the Hyatt in Chicago at McCormick Place. And she was speaking to a convention of 5,000 women. And afterwards, she had to sign so many Chicken Soup books that they had to have a hand masseuse because her hand was cramping. And everything that she wanted, that was the day that it all came true. And she went upstairs to her penthouse suite, the presidential suite that they had given her with the 360-degree panoramic view of Chicago. She's standing at the window and she burst into tears and she threw herself down on the bed and sobbed because she didn't feel any different. Success doesn't have anything to do on the outside. And that's the moment when she figured, maybe he told you the story, I got to figure out what is the key to happiness because this sure ain't it. So success is self-love. Success is loving what you do. Success is not a goal. Success is running through the sprinkler.
Yeah. Is this a successful moment? Is that presence there to be significant? So beautiful. Well, I want to wrap this up with talking about this new endeavor that you are on. And I love this because we're talking about these decades that you've spent with this focus on these things that you were doing with Yes to Success and the Year of Miracles and meditation and all of this. And now this is one of the wonderful things about being able to tune into yourself and to be true to yourself is that you can pivot and it's okay. You can be like, I don't want to do that anymore for no other reason than I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm going to go do it over here. So your new seminar company, Ageless, Anti-Aging for Your Brain, Body, and Future. Will you please tell us about this? This is an area I also love. As you know, I was many, many years in functional and integrative medicine. This is the cutting edge. And I'd love to hear what you're doing and have you give us some tips.
Oh, I love giving tips. So the one thing is I do still teach Yes to Success. That is my love. I will always do it. But what happened was that I would be teaching and I would mention my age. And like clockwork, I would be like, tell us what you do. Tell us what everybody wanted to know what I did. I don't know if you know. Do you know how old I am?
I don't.
Well, I'm going to be 72.
Oh, no,
okay. And this is really me, just by the way, it really is me. So
I would have guessed at least 10 years younger than that.
Yeah, well, that's
the only reason I'm saying that is because I know what year you graduated from college.
Okay.
Because of how you look.
Right. And so people would say to me, you have to tell me because your skin, virtually no wrinkles and unlimited energy. And I said, all right, you know what? Maybe I'll teach a seminar on it. So I called a friend of mine. We went to Washington University in St. Louis together. And she went on to Harvard and did research on anti-aging. Mm-hmm. So I called Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, I have this idea. We have got to put together a seminar and you could do the science. And I know how to teach seminars. Let's teach people how to slow, stop, and even reverse aging of the brain and the body. She was all in. And now it's been years, I guess maybe 4 years that we've been teaching these seminars to thousands of people. And everything we teach is holistic because, you know, as the pharmaceutical industry is racing for the cure for like Alzheimer's and dementia, it ain't working because everything they introduce has 1,000 side effects that are much worse than what they're trying to cure. But there are so many natural remedies, which is what you teach for turning back the hands of time, for brain clarity, for body strength. And I could share a few. Here's a good one. We'll talk about sleep. A lot of people think that it's how many hours you sleep and it's good. It's good to sleep at least 7 hours. But really, for anti-aging, it has more to do with when you sleep because our bodies are still like the cavemen and we start producing HGH, human growth hormone, when it gets dark out. Because the cavemen, they didn't turn on the electric lights. They had to go to sleep. So that's when our body starts producing HGH, which gives us strong bones, good musculature. It gives us aerobic endurance. It gives us mental clarity. It's great for our skin. HGH, human growth hormone. But the greatest amount of human growth hormone is produced between the hours of 10 and 12. And after 12, it basically plummets. So if you're one of those people that goes to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, well, you have completely not grabbed that HGH. The other thing is melatonin. We want to produce melatonin. Melatonin is produced when there's darkness. So if you want darkness, you got to sleep with the mask. I throw a black t-shirt over my eyes because the darker the room is, the more melatonin is produced. So that's a little bit about sleep. And I'll give you, how about exercise? Okay, so telomeres, those nucleotide sequences at the end of the DNA. And as we get older, the telomeres shorten, but there are ways to lengthen telomeres. And what it was found, there's been a lot of research done that there are two types of exercise modalities that lengthen telomeres better than others. One is aerobic, anything rowing, bicycling, speed walking, not strolling, but speed walking. But the other that was even slightly ahead of aerobics was high intensity interval training. So when people do HIIT, and what high intensity interval training is exactly what it sounds like. 30 seconds of like running and then a minute of walking, 30 seconds of fast cycling, minute of walking. So it's high intensity intervals. And that was found to increase telomere length more than any other form of it, which is the indication of youthing. And there are so many other things. Any foods that cause inflammation, if you just want to get rid of one thing in your diet, that is one of the biggest culprits for causing brain inflammation. And you don't want brain inflammation. Your brain cells die. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the science. You probably could. And I leave that to Ronnie when she and I are teaching together. But one of the worst offenders, besides things like nitrates, is white sugar. Causes brain inflammation and causes eventually, if you continually assault your brain, the brain cells do start dying off. And brain cells stop communicating when inflammation is present. And one thing, if you really don't want to get Alzheimer's, if you really don't want to get dementia, only, I think, 5% is hereditary. The rest is lifestyle.
Absolutely. Like most chronic diseases. And isn't it so interesting that as the prevalence of dementia and Alzheimer's and all of these lifestyle related diseases increases like exponentially over the course of, you look at from the 50s until now, and you look at our food industry and Coca-Cola and all of these things that are so much more used. I was a child of the 80s, and I remember in the 80s, when I was growing up, at least where I lived, soda pop was a treat. And then as we get into the 90s and the 2000s, then it is like how cell phones are for people now. They're just attached at the hip to their big 32 ounce, and people are drinking 32, 64, 120 ounces of soda pop a day. And then we start to see all of these long-term neurologic things happening. But how could it possibly be? Those are people who are just conspiracy theorists. But we do know, and I say that with tongue in cheek because that's how it was talked about at the beginning for the first people that started to bring this science forth. And now we know that it is absolutely true. And you talk about the HIIT training, and I'm just going to add a few things here. Isn't it interesting that's actually evolutionarily how humans exercise? We didn't go out and run 5 miles or 10 miles or 100 miles. Our bodies aren't made for these like ultra marathon things. Our bodies were made for these small, intense bursts of exercise. And it's not just because, you're being chased by a tiger, run. Our body has adapted that is actually how we slow our aging down. That actually lengthens our telomeres, which slows aging. And when you sleep from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., those high levels of human growth hormone, that's ancient. I mean, Ayurvedic medicine, the oldest form of medicine in the world, says you need to be asleep by 10 o'clock. If you're awake during the Vata period of the night, which is that ungrounded period of night, begins at 10 o'clock at night, you miss out on deep sleep. That's what their science was. And what we know now is that deep sleep comes with human growth hormone, which decreases ages, increases bone density, increases brain clarity, all of that stuff. So this is ancient science now being proven by modern science. In not only that, but we have so much more information now to know like what these things are. And this is truth. This is fact. This is stuff we can do. We cannot control the entire environment. We can't control a lot of things, but we can control what we can control. We can control what we eat. We can control when we go to bed. We don't need to binge Netflix every night before bed. And we can control and have intention and routine and plan for exercising. And it's this body temple, this taking care of this is so important. I tell people this houses your spirit in this lifetime. Why would you not want to take care of it? Everyone's so afraid of dying. Yes. Oh, I love talking about this stuff. This is wonderful, Debra. I'm so excited that you're doing this.
Well, thank you. And I love what you do. You know, I'm also a student of Ayurveda. Well, being a meditation teacher, spending a lot of time in India, I started doing Ayurvedic diet and panchakarma, lots of Ayurvedic massage back in the 70s. And it's becoming so to the forefront now. And this 5,000-year-old, even more year old science, Ayurveda is now being proven by modern science and wonderful and MDs like you are now bringing out these ancient sciences. And I appreciate that so much because people trust MDs. I mean, you did a lot of work to become an MD and now turning to things like Ayurveda. Wow. Congratulations to you and thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that just to throw back something at you, that a woman with your platform and your following, your Dharma, all of that, to not just talk about success is like, I love how you said in one of your books that you were having this kind of inner conflict when you decided you wanted to talk about success because you were afraid it was going to be construed the wrong way. And it wasn't what you meant by success. And yet you've had so much worldly success from talking about these other things, and you're bringing these other things in there. You're using your platform to help people in whatever way that is being spoken to you. And that's a testament to you really walking your walk and doing what you say that you do, being who you say that you are, which is a little bit of a rare thing these days, honestly. And there's so much gratitude for people who show up to life in this way. So thank you for being here. This has been wonderful. I could talk to you for days. Please tell us where we can find you across social media. I'm sure people are going to want to hear more from you.
Well, I do have a YouTube channel, and I believe that it's under Yes to Success. Do you believe that? I don't even know. But I think it's under Yes to Success. But the best thing to do is just go to my website, which is Yes to Success, YESTO, success.com. And there's a link there where you can get the free ebook called Ageless. And I think 5 tips for anti-aging. They're really good. And also my free ebook on the 5 secrets to true success. So both of those are available. And now you're reminding me that I should put a link to my YouTube channel because I have like hundreds of YouTubes. I do something every Saturday morning called Success Saturday. They're all up on, but I don't think I put the link on my website. So I will do that now.
That's awesome. And now people come to your website and they'll be able to get that link. So Success Saturdays is called on YouTube.
You know, just go to yes2success.com and I'm going to get it all up there and then it'll be really clear. Well, thank you for this, for making me realize that I got to get it on my website.
Awesome. You're very welcome. Thank you so much, Debra. This has been a pleasure.
And thank you.
The Lavish Leader, Unveiling Wisdom is brought to you by Dr. Erin Martin and the Lavish Group. To find out more about Dr. Erin and how you can create and embody a lavish life for yourself, visit thelavishgroup.com. And don't forget to search for Lavish Leader in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at the Lavish Group, thanks for listening. And remember, you too can live a lavish life of fulfillment, beauty, and love.